afternoon, everyone. Nice little hype up there. Thank you very much. So here I am. My name's Charlotte Williams. I'm here with two of the wonderful jurors from Gaming and Virtual Worlds, which, as you will know, is a relatively new category at D&AD, an exciting one, lots of scope for change, where it's all headed. Before we get going, they're going to show you their favourite piece of work or an interesting piece of work that they liked. But first of all, this is about brand storytelling through games, immersive virtual experiences and metaverse platforms. So that's the category definition. And I'm going to turn to you first before we get going to talk about your piece of work. So Claudio, should we play your piece first and then talk about it?
Yeah, let's do that.
Let's do that. So if we could play Claudio's piece of work, please.
With a player called Burger and score with a player called King.
They're already in the game, so just put them together.
Post it on social media and you will get a free whooper.
We live in a time when playing a video game can get you a free hamburger. That's
Now with Burger King, Burger King, Burger King.
How come no one has ever done this?
Zidane, David Beckham, Ronaldinho, Lionel Messi, Barella, Jones,
Sidney Loma.
The King! Ciara King climbing higher. She's number one!
Dommage. C'est qui ce vieux? Vous connaissez? Je sais pas, c'est bizarre.
Burger King, Burger King, Burger King. And now they have the lead.
Wow. That must have pissed off another brand quite a lot. Tell us about this then. Why did you love this? What stood out here for you?
Both me and Jorge really like this, and I think the both pieces of work we're going to see, we both kind of gravitated towards. I feel what I really like about this, I'm from Brazil, so it's like it's a big country, but a smaller market. So for us, every time we see something that is a hack, right, like there is something that, oh, it was not approved by the big corporations, was just like kind of done as a hack, to like as a way to kind of find a little like window of opportunity when you can explore. I really like that. I feel it's a very nice insight. It really got the community like of the game, understanding like the mechanics of the game, and exploiting like both these mechanics and kind of giving an opportunity to the community to exploit it, to win a free Whopper. So I feel it's very smart for that, right? Like, and it shows that even if you do not have the biggest budget, you are like in a smaller market, I think in this case was Belgium, you can still kind of find a way to let a great idea kind of come to life.
Clever little hacks.
Yes.
And you got a Whopper then if you...
Yeah, if you did the goal and then you score, because on FC you can upload your replays to social media. So you scored the goal, you uploaded the replay, and then you would get a free Whopper with that. Okay. So very easy way to get a free meal.
So unanimously liked, would you say, in the jury room?
I think it was, it was very well liked. Of course, we had discussions on like how
Yeah.
much we liked.
We'll come to that. We'll come
But
to
I
that.
think it was like kind of went through fairly easily like to some higher places. But it was a really, really good discussion on that, right? Like kind of the small market, big market. Is the brand taking advantage of the game, or is the brand really like kind of finding a way to connect with this community?
Yeah.
So I think it was very, very interesting, especially to see a brand that is not a gamer brand like Burger King,
Yeah.
like how they can come into that and to come to this universe and talk truthfully, right? Like, and not just kind of. I think Jorge says expression like kind of pay to be inside something like that, buy their way into. So here, I think they didn't, right? Like literally, they didn't.
Yeah, very, very skillful. They're very good at that, aren't they, Burger King? Okay, Jorge, let's move to your chosen piece then. Should we play that?
Before we do that, I'd love to add to
Yes,
this one,
of course.
if it's okay. For me, I think the greatest value was remembering just how iconic brands actually work.
Yeah.
And I think Claudio, and we were bouncing each other out the room, Claudio said something that really hit me, which was, I think for the last 20 years, we've been awarding Burger King for the same behavior. And that is something that, regardless of whatever campaign they're running, I think now is your rule, and before it was the king, and the behavior of their brand globally and their DNA of this rebellious attitude to find a way to hack a video game in which, or a piece of territory where they don't belong, I thought it was absolutely genius. So, yeah.
Yeah, they do that well, don't they? And the Stevenage work as well that they did a few years ago. I remember that really stand out. Okay, incredible. So it sounds like you love that piece as well.
Loved it, yeah.
Let's move to your chosen piece then. If we can play that and then talk about that after, please.
Webster for Bromley. Scores! A Football League club for the first time in their 132 years through.
They're way ahead of us in size of club, in finance, and everything else.
Football Manager is the most realistic football simulator in gaming. You don't control the players, you manage the team.
I'm going to speak to the manager at Bromley FC. He wants to hire a gamer to join his backroom staff.
Today we're for Bromley's next tactician, and it could be you.
This is why I've been playing this game for like the past 20 years.
Son nouvel entraîneur sur Football Manager.
It's like Moneyball, but with gamers.
Yo juego Fútbol Manager 2024.
This is a real job.
I gave myself about 5% chance. Now I've recently found out I got the job.
I can already feel he wants to impress. And he said to just make sure he realises that, you know, this is a real time, real job that we're doing.
In terms of what I kind of learned from Football Manager and what I brought into the job is analysing all of the data points. It's effectively footballing chess. It's how you would maneuver the players in the pitch to get as much advantage as possible.
Towards Michael Chick, great opportunity, and this is
The impact of the business has been fantastic. Just incredible numbers.
This must be an absolute dream come true for you, is that fair to say?
Yeah, it's more than a dream. It's a fair few multiple dreams come true, really.
Well done, lads. Get in there.
Great piece. So, Everyday Tactician for Xbox. Tell us why you love this.
Before I do that, I just realized both pieces are football. So I'm recognizing this is like in the Oscars, what is it? If you do disabilities, drunk, or prostitute, you get an Oscar. So I guess in D&AD, you do football, you get recognized. So little insight.
There you go, everyone. Top tip, yeah.
No, we loved it for many reasons. I think primarily for me is the crossover of the online offline world of these two universes, which is the digital universe in which we play video games and the real world, and that how they converge together. The fact that you can now make a living and a profession out of playing gaming or gaming as an entertainment device, like I think it's mind-blowing. You can take it to esports all the way to take it a real job inside a football club. I think it's absolutely brilliant. What I would also point out in both executions is that the marketing that goes around these type of campaigns, they're not as traditional as we would think. They don't have like your big anthemic film that surrounds it or a big print campaign. They're actually driven by social media, organically spread out through either influencers, creators, or fans. And I think that's worth celebrating.
Yeah. So it democratized it, sort of put it in the hands of the fans, right?
Yeah, the idea is first.
Yeah.
I think the idea is the king here, and then the execution really becomes and it's something we debated a lot in the room, which is the craft, right?
Yeah.
For D&AD, craft is such an essence, an essential component to everything that we celebrate, and it's a whole different beast.
Of course, so let's get to that, because I sat in a little bit of the judging yesterday, and obviously this is a newer award. Technology, a lot of new technologies, nascent emerging technologies coming into play. Overall, what would you say of the quality of the craft? Were you happy with the entries overall? Would you say they've come on over the years? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
I think we are, as is a new category and it's a new kind of way to do marketing.
Yeah.
I think there are still a lot of conflicting points of view, and which is very natural. But it is to like, and I think even on the jury, right, we had people that come more from the gaming world, people that come more from the agency marketing world. So craft is, of course, very easy to see, but it's how you get there can be different, right? So I feel, and this discussion always comes up to like in any kind of work we do, it's especially when you talk to gamers, right? Like, and when you see these two examples and very other examples, craft can be completely different, right? Because you have games that people look at like Roblox or Minecraft, which are terribly looking, but they are like the most played games ever. And then you have games that people spend $1 billion on making, and they do not make so much success, but the craft. So even when you look at game itself, it's still very much to like, what is craft, right? Like, I think for us on design and art direction, the name of the festival is very obvious.
Yeah.
But when you look at experience, right? When you look at how the community, how do you craft that, right? Like what is, so I think there's still a lot of things that are going to be kind of defined throughout the years, and those discussions that we have on the jury are great, because I feel there's a lot of new ways of craft. Like, so is the game very much fun? Like, so that's a lot of craft to make it. Oh yeah, but it looks, everything is squared. Oh, that's, so I think we need to just, and D&AD will have an important role here, because it's always being right, and I've been juries here before in other more traditional categories where craft is very easy to define, right? Like it looks beautiful, makes sense, it's all, but in gaming, I think it's way more like confused. And we were seeing a case yesterday for a game, the Japanese game, the War
Cats.
Yeah, Cat War Cat, something like that. And it's a game that like the least worry they had was craft, right? Like it's terribly looking, but it's a huge success, like, and it's fun. So
because people love cats.
Yeah, but those crazy cats, like, and I invite everybody. I'll try to remember the name. But anyway, I think not to get too long, but what is craft? Like, is what we're gonna have to define, especially for this category.
Okay, interesting. What about you, Jorge? What
to
that point?
I used to work at Activision for quite some time, and I think the category in itself rejects craft.
Okay.
And not in the way that you do video games, but in the way that you market them. And let me rephrase that a little bit. Gamers hate advertising, and gamers hate advertisers. So the advertisers are put in a very hard position, and you can see in the two pieces that we kind of bring in. One is the winner is the video game, which makes it easy because the game is the thing you're celebrating. But the other one is you got to find your way to be organically inside a game. So McDonald's probably paid millions of dollars for a sponsorship, and they had their logo there during the games. But Burger King find a way to get and hack the system, and that's what really valued by gamers. So craft becomes a very subjective element. Like, again, gamers do not appreciate your big anthemic film or your big poetry, or like, they really just want to feel the emotion of playing. And when you look at the channels where they entertain themselves, it's like Twitch, Instagram, TikTok. So it's very humanly driven, down to earth.
Anything that interrupts that experience, they are ardent. They hate it, right? They reject it.
Even if it has great craft.
Are you listening, D&AD?
No, but I mean, craft has a role, right? Like, we see beautiful experiences and beautiful games every year that also have a success. I think it's more this balance, right? What is craft in this category specifically?
Yeah. Okay. And moving on then, any particular trends or themes that you noticed, apart from football, in the work this year? Any sort of thing that you could apply across all the entries?
One thing, and we spoke about this, I think is very interesting, and I think both of these ideas bring in a lot of others, is how do you use specific communities, right? So it's not only to think of a gamer as like, oh, the gamer. No, to like in both of these cases, oh, is the gamer for FC 25 and the gamer for Football Manager, which although like seem very similar, I don't know if anyone here plays Football Manager at least, like, but it's very different, right? Like, and it's literally like the guy from Football Manager thinks he's the coach, and the guy from FC 25 thinks he is the player. But if you like, how do you explore that little community, or in some cases, like in the case of FC, a big community, and how do you like kind of talk just to that people, right? Like you do not have a war in the world to talk to anybody else. So I think this very specific driven, community-driven work, like it's super strong, like when we work with games, and I feel brands that are not games need to start doing that better, right? Like not gonna try, I'm gonna try to talk to all the fans of music. No, you always like kind of find your niche, and I think on gaming it's super important to find, okay, I'll talk to the fans of this game. I need to use their influencers, their language, their aesthetics, and then just kind of stay on that lane. I think it will be better than just talk to, hey, gamers. Do like that. I think is too general.
Yeah.
Sorry. It's a classic quote of, if you want to talk to everyone, you end up talking to nobody.
Yeah.
I think in gaming, you really need to understand what is your core audience, and then what is your potential audience that you can speak to. And then you gotta really come through that lens. Otherwise, again, if you lose that credibility, then you're nowhere.
You totally lose relevance. And we had a brief chat, didn't we, in the green room, because you were saying that where you felt some of the work was off this year, or it went wrong, was where there wasn't really an insight. It was all execution, not necessarily, to your point around understanding the consumers. Can you talk a bit to that, the idea behind the idea, like how people maybe missed it?
Yeah. We saw also big pieces of craft, and we saw also like a different trend that we saw, especially in mobile gaming, which I thought it was really interesting, is like massive investments, like huge celebrities, 5-7 celebrities in one spot. It felt like a Super Bowl commercial gone wrong, which we kind of make the joke in the room. And I think it's something that they're still trying to figure out, again, in this kind of disruptive, rebellious space, that they want to be authentic to the game and be authentic to their community and to their crowd. They tend to go into places where they don't have a real idea, or they don't really have a message to say. And I think we saw a lot of executions that had a lot of craft without meaning. And then we saw a lot of incredible executions with very low budgets, with really, really small communities behind them, but with really strong messaging. I think the Tactician is a great example of that. Take this with a grain of salt, but the whole community that played that game is somewhere close to 150,000, which is nothing for a game. And yet, here we are.
Here we are talking about it. And on that note, I guess big budgets, big countries, big brands do tend to over-index in awards. Were there anything that surprised you, perhaps, around that? Like, were there any countries that did really well that you thought might not? Or can you talk a bit more about the geography, the regions that stood out for you?
I think on that, like, you are right that specifically here, like, big brands and big countries have more access, especially to studios, right? So you see a lot of like big brand partnerships and things that from like a smaller market is much harder to do. But I feel the smaller markets always have the hacks a little bit better, right? Like in the funny moments and the little things. So there's a balance between both of these worlds, right? I feel we saw great stuff from like pretty much everywhere in the world. Like we saw case studies from a lot of places. Like again, focusing on different communities, on different games. So I think there's a balance, like, because the big brands and the big budgets sometimes also make you lazy, right? Like and I've worked in big markets, so because you already have the money, so you can do big things, like, and kind of splash the cash. And then, so I think there's always this balance of people wanting to, okay, no, how do I compete? And then you start to hack and do stuff that like kind of pushing the envelope a little bit. So kind of, I think what we saw was fairly balanced.
Yeah, huge diversity, which makes it incredibly difficult to judge sometimes, because we end up with games in Japan or Taiwan that we had no idea they existed. And when you see the level of craziness and irreverence that comes out of there, it's very hard to evaluate.
You did your diligence, though, didn't you? Because you played them all, you looked at them all, you went and looked at the vote, the scores on the app. So
it goes with a lot of research. Yeah.
Takes a lot. Okay, more of a juicy question then. What? Any debates, any arguments, anything that was contentious between the jurors this year? Did you have any heated discussions?
I think we did some. There was a new category this year called trailers for games. And I think the main, like, because it was a new subcategory, there was like, what is a trailer, right? So, and of course, there are, like, at least personally, I came expecting, trailers are this because I was used to that. And it was great to have like people from studios that are like, no, we consider that a trailer as well, because then it kind of opens it up a little bit more. And I feel that was very interesting, because what we would consider like a more traditional cinematic trailer for a game, none of that like kind of made to the finals. Because the new things, right, like the new ways to talk to specific, again, parts of these little communities were more interesting to communicate the game, sometimes without showing zero of the game, right? Like, was just kind of something to get you interested in playing. So I feel on that we had a pretty lengthy discussion that, like, how to define that, right? And I think, again, just with time we'll be able to, in a few years, look back and say, okay, so this is more what is a...
As it evolves and...
an awardable trailer. But I feel that was an interesting discussion.
Okay, yeah. Any others? Anything else?
Yeah, there was another one which you got kicked out of the room.
Actually?
Friendly.
For all the right reasons. No, it had to do with craft, and it was around an execution that is called the final exam. If you haven't seen it, I strongly recommend that you look into it. I believe it was made by Claudio, and it's this simulation video game that incarnates living through a shooting in a school, in elementary school in America.
Yeah, it's a simulation of a school shooting.
And you are one of the students, and the whole purpose of you is to survive the shooting. And as you are going through this experience, you're collecting items, and those items are always reminding you to create some sort of demonstration against legislation to create a ban in America against weapons, right? Did I say it right?
Yeah,
Should explain. It's your game.
You sign, as you go playing, you have to sign petitions and like that will avoid, and mainly is to show that the fault from that is not the video games, right? Because everybody faults video games for that, but it's more that like there's no legislation to protect. So that's an idea from Energy BBDO in Chicago that we produced the game.
So a big part of the tension and the debate in the group, between the group, was to recognize the message, separate the message from the intention, and two of those things separated from the craft of the execution. And that created a lot of debate and conversation amongst us. And regardless, again, I strongly recommend everyone to just at least look at the case study because it's brilliant. And
thank you.
Yeah, very good piece
Or
of
play
work.
the game. It's on
Amazing
Steam,
work.
available on Steam.
We've got a few minutes left. I don't know if we're doing Q&A, but I just wanted to put it out there if anyone has a burning question, because you don't often get a chance to interview D&AD or ask a question to D&AD jurors. So I don't know if we have a mic or if we're doing questions. If not, we can just keep talking. But does anyone have a question? Is there even a mic? Are we doing Q&A? I don't know. Anyone? Yeah.
question for Keka.
I think there were 180 entries, so I mean, not too many of them were playable. Like kind of actually very few were playable, like a game that you can download. And for example, we had pieces that did not win because they were like a game and they did not send us an option to play the game, or the game was not working, right? So that kind of people are like, oh, like there were amazing ideas, but then you couldn't play. So that's kind of like just them telling you that, oh, this is how it works, but yeah, we're not too many playable entries because there was a lot of like just kind of brand work. So let's say, I don't know, 15, 20, something like that. Trailers, I think there were like 15 as well. But again, there was like some there were like 4 minutes and they were like full big stories, and some there were like kind of literally 30 seconds, right? And you kind of had this range. And I feel I don't know if all the entries are available later for you to watch, but it's interesting just to see, because that was a big discussion. What is a trailer? And when you watch all, you can't define what is a trailer, right? Like some look like an ad, some look like a Super Bowl, some look like oh, it's just gameplay trailer. So it's very interesting.
Fast evolving discipline, isn't it? So we've got 2 minutes left. What I'm going to ask you both is really just to talk to briefly, obviously, is how will the discipline evolve and what impact will new technologies have? Who's going to go first? Jorge, you want to go first?
Say it again.
How will this evolve, this category, do you think? Or how do you hope it will evolve, perhaps is better? And what impact do you think new technologies will have on it?
I'm gonna try to be super quick. One is, I think slowly we're gonna start to see we are already starting to see this year a healthier relationship between brands and video games, and they're trying to figure out their playing ground and how to relate with each other. Fortnite has been doing a great effort on integrating other brands, but it's not quite there yet. It still feels like people are buying their way into the game. So that, I think, is going to be the evolution of this. We're going to start to see more branding inside video games just because gamers are, like everybody, at least the audience of gaming is so large, and it creates so much revenue and so much money. You want to answer the last one?
Yeah, I feel like more than technology, I want to just focus on a very important point that was one idea also that we discussed. that was Code My Crown, right? From and Danielle is here. She's also a jury, and she kind of brilliantly defended that. And I feel that's a way also to video games and marketing video games to evolve. Is how do we bring more diversity, inclusion, especially in the moments that we live now, which those teams are kind of under fire, from
social impact.
Yeah. So I think this is super important because and to us there's always been amazing. The more people in mobile gaming did that, right? Because the more people that play, the more people that see themselves in games, the more consumers we have, easier it is to do campaigns. And I'm speaking economically, right? It is right, but it is also good for business, right? So I think the more diversity we bring into gaming, and we've seen this in Brazil with mobile games that suddenly invaded the favelas, and now we have millions of kids that want to be gamers.
Way more accessible.
It's really nice for us. So I feel like these kind of ideas, these kind of approaches should be always explored to kind of just invite new people to play.
Fantastic. What a good note to end on. Thank you so much. Thank you to our
Charlie.
jurors. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.